Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I, of course, am Hammer. Excuse me, still getting over that cold. Hammer, founder of Originator Success, Grab and Go Social, and Rate Sensei. Remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook and YouTube as I talk about what's going on with mortgage rates and pricing. A lot to talk about today because of what happened yesterday. Yesterday, we saw a miraculous recovery. That's 2 days in a row. Friday, we saw mortgage pricing improve on the day. Over 30-year prices better as bonds rebounded. Yesterday started out very ugly and another huge rebound, but for a different reason. So we will go over that and talk about what happened with yesterday. Again, a lot to go with there. And will those rate improvements stick around? That's the big question. We'll go over that. So happy Taco Tuesday, by the way. And yes, that is a double word play. I know that my big Trump supporters are not going to be happy with me. However, I do feel like Trump is tacoing a little on this one. So I'll go into detail on that. But we're going to stay on task. This isn't political commentary. It's more of the effect on rates and pricing, but that applies here. So we'll go into that. Remember, you can join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you want a reminder that I'm going live so you don't miss a moment of the show, sign up for a reminder at hmmr.io/reminder or use this cool QR code over here. If you're on your phone, take a screenshot. You can always open that QR code later. Also, you can get our email lock advice, www.ratelockadvice.com. You can also sign up for our text alerts at www.ratetextalerts.com as well. So, hey, Badita, I'm going to quick side note here. I noticed Charlie on here, Charlie Badita. He is a member of Originator Success. I love Charlie, so I will say he strayed and went with 220 Marketing when they lied to him like the sirens that they are, and he learned that they're full of shit, and he came back. And let me show y'all something real quick. Charlie, I was messing around yesterday with somebody. We're with a professional for AI about improving ranking, and I was looking at Uniontown, Ohio mortgage broker lender. I said, who is the best mortgage broker lender in Uniontown, Ohio. And we'll see if I get what kind of findings I get this time around. However, right now, this time is it Uniontown? See, here I am showing it live, and now it's being the dick. Charlie came up number one, and then now I'm not getting that though. So maybe I used the wrong town this time. Anyway, so much. I should just cut that part out. Anyway, that makes me mad because I didn't have that same finding in my chat history. So anyway, back on track. Yeah, Uniontown. Yeah, so I'll play with it and maybe I'll show it tomorrow. So anyway, going on this, let me get back to the captions. Let's go ahead and jump in and get started since I made a mess of it. And welcome everybody to the live show. Quick thing, I joke and say Taco Tuesday, but that's kind of part of the thing. So yesterday we saw even more volatility than we saw on Friday. Let me share my screen. We'll go into what's going on. Let me see entire screen. Here you go. All right. So yesterday, what we saw was right here. And mortgage pricing came out. Let me make this a little smaller so we can see. There you go. Mortgage pricing came out right around 10 a.m. We're right here, right? So things were sucking on the day. And if you remember, the reason that things were sucking on the day yesterday, oil prices had jumped up over $100 a barrel. That drove mortgage rates and pricing down through the floor. You could see that right here. Remember, this is where we ended the day on Friday, opened the day on Monday, all the way down at the bottom after having a really nice recovery on Friday. So yesterday, you could see there was a heck of a recovery here. Ended the day much higher. We went from down all the way up. If we look at the swing on the day, you can see the size of this candlestick right here, this big green candlestick. And the reason that the body on that candlestick is so large is we started the day down here at really low levels, and it rose all the way up, and we ended the day really high, and there's almost no wick. That wick is what is the highest point compared to the top of the body, which is where we actually ended the day. So when you're looking at these candlesticks, when it has a large wick like this one, this thin line, that means that it improved up to this level, but then ended the day right here. And if it's a green candlestick, we started lower and ended higher. If it's a red candlestick, we started higher but ended lower. That's bad. So yesterday we were down. Friday we ended the day at 99.74. We opened at 99.52. So you were down, 90 or 74 minus 52. So you were down 22 basis points on the day, and we ended up closing at 99.94. That's a swing of 38 basis points that we improved on the day. And we saw this big improvement on the day because of the comments that Trump made. Let me adjust this a little bit so you guys can see it here. Pull this side over. Hold on. Okay, so let's get rid of the junk on the side. There you are. All right, so Trump says the Iran war will end very soon. The comments that he used were that it was very complete, pretty much. And that's very Trumpish. And again, whether you love him or hate him, it doesn't really matter. And I don't either. I don't love him and I don't hate him. That's kind of my thing. That's why I have no problem just calling it out for what it is. So anyway, the big takeaway here is that yesterday we saw a huge recovery in oil prices. They had surged up to, I think it was $119, we had said. It was well over $100 a barrel. And then it dropped back down well below $100 a barrel yesterday because Trump said that the war, or as I call it, a conflict, it's not a war, will end very soon and that oil prices will drop. His rosy prediction came after a weekend saw oil prices skyrocket to above $100 a barrel, roiling global financial markets. That's why we saw yesterday open so ugly. Very, very bad for rate sheets. We're achieving major strides towards completing our military objective, Trump said 9 days after launching the war. Now, remember, it was only last week that he said this was going to last 4 to 5 weeks at least. So markets have been operating on the idea that this is going to continue. And then yesterday, Trump dangled, that basically that he's done. Now, he says, and I don't believe this. This is where I think he's just making things up and embellishing. We've wiped every single force in Iran out very completely. The president said it at Trump National Doral Club near Miami, where he touted the destruction of more than 50 Iranian naval ships and decimation of its air force and anti-aircraft defenses. They have no leadership. It's all been blown up. Well, that's not true. And they do have leadership. And in fact, there's a very large argument being made that the leader that they have elected is going to be worse than the one that he replaced, which was his father. So we got rid of Khamenei and brought in the younger Khamenei, right? So, they're still, and this is, Iran's leadership signals it's still in control and able to fight. Regime is battered but holding up, a challenge to the U.S.-Israeli goal, bringing it down. So senior Iranian political figures, while hunted from the air and limiting their appearances in public, are regularly posting messages, reflect recent developments, and project unity and defiance. It talks all about this. So the kind of all of this matters because we're trying to figure out how long is this going to stay and are things really over? And that's the big thing on where we go from here. So rate sheets today are going to be better than yesterday. You don't really see that story here when we look at Mortgage News Daily and we look at the way that the pricing is broken out. It shows, that yesterday's rate sheet 614 was the same as Friday's, but that's really not accurate because that basically reflects all of the reprices better that came in during the day. And I think there were about 40 reprices better. When you look at the chart, when we look at where pricing came out down here, I'll switch to yellow. It's a little easier to see on the black. When you look at where pricing came out down here, rate sheets were a lot worse than where they were and where they ended the day, and what that MND rate reflects up here. So there were, yesterday there were probably about 40 reprices better, or close to 40 reprices better here. This says 46 by the end of the day. So 46 reprices better according to the folks that are all members of Mortgage MBS Live, and they report, that. So it's good crowdsourced information. And on Friday, we saw a similar, let's go back to Friday. This is a weekend Friday. Friday were 32 reprices better. So, I mean, we saw that behavior, but the question is, will this hold up? Or because now there's new headlines, and that's why I'm going to say that reprice risk is high, because there's new headlines that we are, that the biggest is yet to come. Hegseth says, we will not relent until Iran is defeated. Well, these are not congruent messages, and markets are very confused by this. Now, Trump has in the past shown no problem stepping up, and I won't say he lies. He embellishes. There's words for when he, kind of makes things up and says things like his comments. Here we go. His comments here that, things are complete and that we've done this. Let's see. He said, I'm looking for what he said. He said, we've wiped everything very completely. We talked about that. There was one on here. I've read so many different articles now. I forgot where it was. We'll hit them so hard, it will not be possible for them or anyone else helping them to ever recover that section of the world. He said the war would be over when Iran no longer had the capacity to use weapons against the U.S., but yet they're not claiming that they've gotten rid of that yet. So there's a lot of things that we have to read between the lines on this, and be sure there and on there. Asked by a reporter to explain the difference between his prediction of a quick end to the war and Pete Hegseth's recent comment, the war is just beginning, Trump said both could be true. It's the beginning of building a new country, Trump said. He pledged to keep the U.S. out of another lengthy entanglement. Trump said he's disappointed in Iran's choice of Mojtaba Khamenei to succeed his father, but he declined to say whether he would assassinate him. And again, this is all just more Trumpism. He's very impressed. Other people wouldn't have done it. Only Trump did it, blah, blah, blah. He's a narcissist. Even if you're a Trump supporter, you have to admit he's a narcissist. The question is, has the United States really done anything over there? And why would it be over? What's complete? Trump says that we have completely eliminated, we've wiped every single force in Iran out very completely, but that's not true. There's still drones. There's a slowdown in that stuff, but it's still, so again, this is not me piling on Trump. What I'm trying to get across is we've seen a huge improvement in 10-year treasury yields, all bond pricing, mortgage-backed securities improving, the markets improving, oil dropping, all on this idea that the United States is, we've hit our goal and that that this is going to be over and blah, blah, blah. But then is it really? Next week, will we see, or later this week, will we see comments that, we didn't get the result that we wanted and that they're not complying and that Khamenei didn't do what he wanted him to do and that everything is going to be worse? Is this Trump placating the markets a little bit, manipulating the markets? It's not beyond him to manipulate the markets. He's done it before and he'll do it again. You could say whether that's great. You could say that's terrible. It doesn't matter. My opinion on that doesn't matter. What does matter is are these mortgage rates here to stay and where are we going to be? And my lock advice is very much start the day off cautiously floating, beware of the volatility, and be ready to lock. Reprice risk is definitely high. Any signs that Trump is, any reversal from yesterday's comments that this will be over very soon and that things are going to be okay, if we see anything that markets start to pull away from that, you're going to see oil prices go back up and you're going to see mortgage-backed securities lose ground and the 10-year treasury yield go up and all the above. And rate sheets are going to get worse. Right now, rates have managed to hold very well in light of all of this stuff. Again, this is kind of an incomplete picture when you want to argue that where we closed yesterday is very close to where we close on Friday, and obviously very close being the same. But it really wasn't. We had a huge worsening in rates yesterday morning, and many lenders had to reprice better to get to that 6.14. This morning, you'll be a little worse than the reprice better, but it should still be. I mean, look at where we were on Friday. If we do a 5-day and you look again, rate sheets at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day on Friday, this is why we have the volatility, right? At the beginning of the day on Friday, rate sheets were really ugly. Beginning of the day, Monday, rate sheets very ugly. We had a lot of reprices through the day on Friday. Right here, we had 32. Yesterday, it showed 45, and things were better. So right now, we're right here. That's better than Friday morning's pricing. It's better than Monday morning's pricing. However, where does that really stand in the scheme of things? It's a little bit worse than the repriced pricing that we would be seeing. We were up here. Now we're basically here. Friday, we were right about here. So arguably, we should be about the same, even though we're down 12 basis points. If you want to average that, lenders are generally coming in right around that same levels where they were at on Friday. But where will things go? Start off cautiously floating, but you have to be alert. Make sure you recognize we can absolutely see that. And that's there. I'm looking at the comments now. So Robert, I have 2 floating, but closing next month. My thoughts, I would float. I would continue floating if it's next month. I'll tell you why. We saw the strong reaction right here. Where is ICE Brent crude right now? ICE Brent crude. So oil prices right now, we're back down to 90, right? So if it were to, go back up over 100, and you could see it down here, let's change this chart to 5 days so you could see. Look at this volatility, right? Over, and this is the 9th to the 10th. So here we were 3.6, 3.9. Then it came down. We're a little bit lower. Things are lowering right now. So I would continue floating. When we see a true end to this is the reaction that markets are going to have. Things will improve again. It will get better and go back down. Mortgage rates belong in the high 5s right now. They really do. Based on current conditions. Remember, we got a really weak jobs report on Friday. That really should have helped mortgage rates improve. And that's part of why we saw the improvement through the day, even though it was a strange way of getting it. It took a around the block method, because remember, this was that jobs data. We had that spike and then it dropped, but then it came back up. So this improvement right here was the spike with the jobs data, but then we had, okay, that takes a backseat, and then it kind of improved. It was a very odd kind of trading day, but yesterday shows us very much what will happen when things improve and when there is an actual end to this situation. So if you had stuff that was closing, I'm sorry, I should highlight this comment. If you had stuff that's closing, I would be there. So, but yeah, and again, even putting the politics aside, I don't trust why we would say that we're done, because as Sean's pointing out, the son is worse than the father. That's what you hear a lot of. So I don't know, and again, I don't really want to get into how about all that stuff, but the question is, how can you trust? And it definitely, Trump will change his mind. Some people get very aggravated by that. I don't really, I don't think it's a bad thing. However, he will turn around and say, no, we're definitely done. And then 10 minutes later say we're back at war because the wind blew the other direction. And he will absolutely change his mind on this stuff. And markets know that, and markets are ready for that. And that's why you have to be aware. Reprice risk is still high. And I don't really believe that this is over. How many of you believe that this is actually over and that things will I mean, again, we have headlines right here that we're stepping up Iran strikes this today. The Pentagon said it's conducting the most intense day of attacks against Iran. Now Trump didn't say that the conflict was over yesterday. He said it wouldn't be this week. Right. So, it's just, I think that this was kind of I wanted to slow things down after a really bad weekend in oil. I don't think that this is here. We're concerned the apparent lack of a joint plan on how this war can quickly be brought to a convincing conclusion, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz told reporters. And I kind of feel the same way. What is a convincing conclusion? What is an end to this? Brent, having climbed to almost 120 a barrel on Monday, eased to about $91 following Trump's comments. That's a win. And that might be the main reason that he said what he said, was just to settle markets down and get that stuff to relax. So I don't know that I trust it. So again, not time to sing Kumbaya and think rates will all start to drop back down again. Be on high alert. We absolutely could see rates that go up higher from here if we just want to keep an eye on it. So Mitchell just signed up for the text alerts. Very cool, my friend. Glad to have you on. And yeah, I'm gonna mess around with my stupid ChatGPT. Pissed me off, liar. It did so good for me when I did that before. Let's see. I don't know. I'll check it tomorrow. So anyway, that's it. Enough rambling from me. So hope you guys have a fantastic day. We'll see what tomorrow brings. I expect more volatility. Cautiously float to start. Be ready, and we'll keep you posted. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.